I'm not saying I'm giving up gardening, by the way. Hells no. Hey y'all, how's it going? Been a while? Oh, I am so good. I'm actually making myself a cup of hot tea. I'm greedy. Why am I greedy? I know, I got 2 whole inches of rain and I am thriving in it. I'm so happy. I'm having myself a hot tea. I got some long sleeves on. It's basically fall. All right, sorry y'all, just real life over here. Now, you've probably noticed some changes. One of them is my hair, which I'm sure we will see better when I take you outside. Another one of them is I always promised you guys that I would never be a complicated coffee person, and I'm so sorry, but I've become a pour over coffee person, which is arguably the most complicated coffee that you can actually make. I will say it tastes delicious, and there's a whole story about how I became a pour over coffee person, but that's not the story we're going to tell today. So we're going to have a chitty chat with me and the blonde hair and a cup of tea, and we're going to do it outside because it's quite wonderful outside because it finally rained today. Okay y'all, got our tea. It's like rainy humid out here, but it's like the humidity that like means something because it rained. So it's been a while. I have a lot to tell you guys. I guess I don't want to make it seem that dramatic, but I don't know, maybe it is. I don't know, I just work here. So, if you saw my video probably a month ago about what I was growing in the fall, LOL, a lot has changed in 4 weeks. So, it's funny, I took a break from gardening. That was the really dramatic title or video that I made a couple of videos ago called like, I'm giving up. This has been the hardest gardening season I've ever experienced. Even before I was gardening, this has been the hottest and hardest summer in Texas I've ever experienced. So my attitude at the time was very much like, this is temporary and I'm gonna like hit the fall garden and I'm gonna give it all I've got because it's my last season. So then I started really thinking about the kind of work that was gonna mean, and the kind of, you know, amending the beds. Like, you know, we'll break it down. In the backyard, I would have needed to amend the beds. I would have needed to remulch. I would have needed to water, right? And this garden is already really tough because we don't get enough sunlight back here to really have a thriving garden. The only reason I did so well last year was because of the amount of rain we got in the spring, and everything grew really fast. So everything was so tall and jungly, so it was able to reach the sun. So thinking about doing that here in the backyard was like a very daunting feeling. And then thinking about doing that at my community garden was even more daunting. There's a few other reasons behind the community garden, so I'll just cut to the chase and then I'll explain everything. I will not be gardening at all this fall. I, in fact, will actually not be gardening until the spring when we buy a house and we move in. I officially gave my email notice that I was giving up my community garden plot, and I haven't been watering the bed out here, and so I will be a gardener without a garden here for the next 6 months. And that's the thing, is I only have to really remember it's really only 6 months, but let's talk about why I kind of came to the decision that I did, and then break down why both gardens just weren't working for me in my life right now. So we'll start with the backyard. We always knew the backyard garden was temporary, right? The sun made it difficult. The spring made it really hard. The backyard garden has been a huge learning experience for me, but it has not been a huge success. And I guess you could say that it's been successful in the fact that it's been such a learning experience, so I don't want to take away from that, but this backyard garden has been tough. So that's kind of part one. Part two of that is that the timing of me trying to grow back the grass was going to be pretty rough as well, because by the time all of this stuff died off, it was probably going to be like late November, early December. By that time, between then and the spring when we would be moving out of this house, the grass would not be able to grow back in these areas. And I've had a lot of people say like, oh, it's just a rental, you should just leave it, blah, blah, blah. I am a believer that you should leave things better than when you found them. And while I might consider all of these beautiful gardens better, at the end of the day, this isn't my space. I do not own this space. I have to respect this space for what it is, and I have to put it back to the way it was when I moved in. So that kind of is how I feel about that. So I was already really anxious about the timing of getting the grass to grow back. Fall is a great time to get grass to grow here where we're at in Central Texas because it's really warm. So now that we've cooled down, aka it's not over 100 degrees every day. Y'all, we're about to hit a day next week that's 91. That's gonna feel cold. So yeah. So I was already kind of anxious about that part of things. And between that and just the pest pressure, I pulled up a couple of the pepper plants. I'm staring at them right now because most of them are dead. I pulled up a couple of the pepper plants. Their root systems were not even anything worth saving. I mean, I think I really came to understand how important, like I always knew rainfall was important as a gardener, but I think I really came to understand how important rainfall was in environments with native clay soil, and that's because the rain and the deep penetration of rain and water, it really makes that ground so wet that the roots can break through. So yeah, so the backyard garden, while it was easier to water and easier to maintain, it was one of those things where I wasn't gonna have adequate time, that I wasn't gonna be stressed about like putting this back to what it was when we moved in. So that kind of takes care of the backyard garden. I still have all of my trees, which I plan on showing you at the end of this video, especially my peach tree. She's doing the stuff. And I plan on keeping all of those. I still have my green stock. I plan on keeping my green stock. But I kind of just realized that the backyard garden just like was not working and it wasn't going to work. So I was like, okay, fine, I still have the community garden. Well, I took a break from the community garden, like a large break. Like I probably haven't been for over a month. Honestly, it might be longer than that. Probably is longer than that, actually. I've been in the community garden in a really long time. So here's the deal with the community garden. I have had that garden space for 3 years. And 1 year in, in 2020, I took on some leadership positions. Now, every volunteer organization that you're ever going to be a part of is going to have a lot of drama. I have been volunteering since I was 13 years old. I started volunteering at the Toledo Zoo when I was 13. We did all kinds of community projects. We helped the homeless. We helped people who have autism and other mental disabilities. We did stuff at the zoo. I worked with kids. I have been volunteering in some kind of capacity. I volunteered at a bear sanctuary in Arizona. I've been volunteering in some kind of capacity, honestly, for most of my life. I started when I was 13. I'm 28. It's been 15 years, okay? So for the majority of my life, I have been a part of some kind of volunteer organization. I feel very passionately about volunteering. I feel very passionately about community. However, I am really good at putting everybody above Brooke, and I'm really bad at putting Brooke first, or even second or third. Brooke's usually last. So it's something I struggle with a lot, is putting Brooke first. And with my job, I love my job, and I really like the people I work with, and I feel very passionately about doing things at my job that help other people and help my teammates. I also feel passionately about my friends and my humans. I candidly have never had friends for as long as I've had friends here, and I really want to nurture those friendships. My relationship with Cam, these are all things that I want to spend my time doing. I can't do that when I'm spending my time at a volunteer organization, okay? Because that's what it is. The community garden, when you're in leadership, is a volunteer organization. I could go into all the drama, I could go into all the dirty details, but it's not worth my time. It's really not. The moral of the whole story is over the 2 years that I was in leadership, the garden did not feel like a peaceful space for me anymore. It did not feel like a space that I wanted to go spend my free time in, especially because it was taking away from me spending time with my friends, spending time with my boyfriend, spending time doing other things that I love, right? Really, the reason I got that whole community garden in the first place was because I needed a plot of land to garden on when I was in an apartment. So in the 4 weeks since you've seen me, I haven't gone to that garden one time. And I all of a sudden have had the time to work out in the mornings. I have had the time to see my friends a couple times a week. I have had the time to do more things with my boyfriend. And you know what's crazy? And this is going to be a tiny bit personal. So when I told Cam that I was like officially giving up my community garden plot and like I was officially giving up gardening for this season, he actually said to me, he goes, "Oh, I get you back for Saturday mornings." And we have this tradition, we've been doing it for years, pretty much since we met and we started dating, which was 4 years ago. We've had this tradition where we get up on Saturday morning. We usually try and go out on a date or like do dinner together, or like do something together on Friday night. I mean, obviously, now that we've been living together for so many years, like, duh. But when we were just dating, we would go do something together on Friday night. There would usually be too much wine involved, so I would wake up pretty hungover on Saturday morning. Y'all, I was in my early 20s, okay? Just keep in mind. So I would wake up the next morning and he would always make me pancakes and coffee, and we would watch Premier League soccer. And I got really into watching Premier League soccer. We follow Leicester City, the team, and I will sit there and watch games for half the day because my job every day is extremely intensive on my mental space because I'm talking, I'm being myself, I'm being that bubbly Brooke for 8 hours a day. So by the time Saturday morning rolls around, y'all, I am sick of my damn self. I am sick of myself. I don't want to talk to you. I just want to watch something, and not something like dramatic and not something sad. And, you know, I just want to watch a sport, right? Like, I just want to like zone out and get myself into the game. So we have this whole tradition of Saturday mornings. Well, when I started gardening, and I started, especially at the community garden, I would run off on Saturday mornings. And because Cam is the man that he is, he was never going to tell me that that bothered him because I was going to the garden for me. But man, when he said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was just like, wow, I've been neglecting this part of my relationship. And so we had our first Premier League morning last weekend on Saturday morning, and we made coffee and breakfast and hung out, and it was so nice. And so, yeah, there was a lot. This whole thing is a lot. I think when you start to realize that something in your life, no matter what it is, whether it's a relationship with a person, a job, a hobby, whatever it is, when something's not working for you, it's really hard when that's like become part of your identity. It's really, really hard to break away from that and kind of not only say like, oh, that's not working for me, but say that's not working for me, and I'm actually not going to keep trying to make it work for me. I come from a family where me and my sister are first generation college grads. So we were raised in the mindset of you have to not quit. You have to study, you have to do better, you have to volunteer, you have to play a sport, you have to do everything you need to do to go to college. So we went to college, we graduated, we're very successful. That's wonderful. I still have this mindset of when something's not working for me, I don't really sit there and say, oh, that's not working for me, not because I'm not working hard enough. It's because that's just not working for me in my life right now because other things have changed. My job responsibilities are increasing, and honestly, just what I want has changed. So it's funny, I had this funny realization when, and this is gonna sound so stupid, y'all. I had this really funny realization when I installed my soaker hose in my backyard, and all of a sudden watering my garden was so much easier. And I feel like I had this thought one day where I was just like, oh, it like does not have to be this hard. And so that was a lot of information. So this is kind of how I came to this kind of place of like, you know what, gardening's not for me right now in the space that I have to do it in. So a lot of you are probably wondering, what does that mean? What's next? What's coming up? Are we still gonna see Brooke? The answer is yes. Come on. I'm offended you questioned me. You are still gonna see me. However, we do not move till the spring. So for the rest of the year, and it's like almost September at this point, for the rest of the year, we have a lot of stuff planned, like holidays, family trips. We're just really busy. So I'm gonna take the next few months to really think about what I want, plan what I want, and just really critically think about all the lessons I've learned gardening and how I plan on applying those in my next garden, that I'm gonna have so much more freedom with, because we're gonna be able to like build permanent structures. And you know, I really want to put some time and energy into thinking about irrigation and efficiency and things that work for me, because 3 years ago when I started the community garden, and even more years ago than that when I was apartment gardening, the only option I had was to work with something that was pre-existing, whether it was like pots on a balcony or it was the community garden, right? I just didn't really have a choice. So now I get to completely reimagine what gardening looks like for me moving forward. Do I want to do raised beds? Do I want to do in-ground gardening? How do I want it to look? How do I want it to function? What kind of efficiency do I want? Do I want soaker hoses? Do I want drip irrigation, right? Like, I've already started thinking about some of this stuff, and I'm truly like overwhelmed, but like in a good way. So that's kind of what's coming up. You'll probably see some content from me over the next 6 months. You'll definitely see me in the spring when we start to build the new garden, and I already have a few ideas about what I want to do to finally plant all these like beautiful trees that I've been caring for a couple of years now, and it's really exciting. It feels bittersweet letting go of things before I feel like I was really ready, but I think for me personally, it's a very important exercise in letting go of things that are no longer working and not forcing myself to make them work either. Thought it was appropriate to make this video on the first day that it freaking rained in months. And yeah, I want to show you my peach tree, because my peach tree, I think, is showing us like this beautiful example of new fresh beginnings amidst a very, very tough season. Also, I don't have shoes on, so it's fine. I could just be a little mud child. Look at her. Look at that. Look at how awful those leaves look. I thought my tree was dead. So yeah, after almost 2 years of making videos every week, this is quite the break. I do want to do a couple of videos between now and then, talking about planning the new garden, talking about what I want to grow, talking about gardening lessons that I've learned and what I will not do in the future, just so this video doesn't keep too long. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you guys' support and love. Some of you have found me on Instagram because you got nervous that something happened. Some of you have emailed me, checking in, and trust me, I love you all for that. The community that we've built here, it is small but mighty, and you guys are just all really wonderful, lovely people. So thank you for watching my channel and supporting our life and my vision, and it's not gonna be too long. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Thanks so much for watching. Happy gardening. We'll see you next time. Also, my canned tomatoes did not mold and we've been eating them and they taste really good. Love you, bye.